My name is Daniel, and I want to start with something that happened to a guy named Ethan who works 2 cubicles down from a friend of mine at an insurance office in Ohio. Ethan started investing in January 2016, $300 a month into a total market index fund completely on autopilot. By January 2017, he'd put in $3,600 and his account was worth $3,800. He told my friend, only half joking, that he made $200 for an entire year of not touching his money, and he could have made that napping through one decent shift of overtime. He kept going anyway, mostly out of stubbornness. 9 years later, in 2025, that same account crossed 6 figures, same monthly deposit almost the entire time. And here's the detail that actually matters, the part nobody talks about. Ethan didn't get smarter about investing between 2016 and 2025. He didn't discover some secret fund or time the market better. What changed was how often he looked. In year 1, he checked his balance almost daily. By year 6, he checked it maybe once a quarter. And I think that single shift, the frequency of looking, explains more about who ends up wealthy and who doesn't than almost any other factor in personal finance. Here's the belief I want to go after today, because I think it's technically true and also almost completely useless. Compounding is slow at first and fast later. Everyone says this. It's on every finance channel. It's true, and it explains nothing about why people actually quit. Because knowing that compounding accelerates later doesn't stop you from feeling like your money is doing nothing right now, this week, this month. The actual problem isn't the math. The actual problem is that we're using the wrong instrument to measure a process that was never built to be measured that way. Imagine judging whether a tree is growing by staring at it for 10 minutes every single day. You would see nothing, absolutely nothing. Not because the tree isn't growing, but because you're applying a daily measuring stick to a process that operates on a completely different timescale. Trees don't grow in ways visible to the human eye in real time. They grow in ways visible to someone who leaves for a year and comes back. Your investment account is the tree. Your banking app sitting right there on your phone, tempting you every single evening, is you staring at it for 10 minutes, hoping to catch it moving. This is where the 7-5-3-1 rule actually earns its keep, and I want to walk through it differently than you've probably heard it framed, because I don't think it's a growth formula. I think it's a measurement system. It exists to stop you from checking the tree with the wrong tool. The 7 is your minimum observation window, not your minimum investment window, and that distinction matters more than it sounds like it should. 7 years isn't a magic number where returns suddenly get generous. Looking at rolling returns across the S&P 500 going back nearly a century, any random single year has historically produced a gain roughly 3 times out of 4, which sounds decent until you realize that also means 1 out of every 4 years you're staring at a loss and wondering if you made a mistake. Stretch that window to 7 years, and virtually every rolling period in the market's history has landed positive. The market itself didn't change, your measuring window did. 7 years is the point at which the instrument finally becomes accurate enough to tell you anything true. Anything shorter than that, and you're not measuring compounding, you're measuring noise. And mistaking noise for information is exactly how good long-term investors talk themselves into bad short-term decisions. The 5 is where most people think diversification is about safety, and I'd push back on that slightly. I think diversification is really about giving yourself permission to stop watching any single piece too closely. If your entire portfolio is one aggressive tech position, you are psychologically incapable of checking it only once a quarter, because a 20% swing in a single stock feels like an emergency. But spread that same money across a broad market fund, some dividend-paying companies, a slice of international exposure, and a cushion of bonds, and suddenly a 15% drop in one sleeve of your portfolio barely moves the total number. You're not just protecting your money, you're protecting your attention. You're making it boring enough on any given day that you're not tempted to open the app and stare. The 3,
And this is the part I think gets rushed past in most explanations, is really about the three predictable emotional seasons every long-term investor passes through, and recognizing them as seasons rather than verdicts. The first is a kind of quiet disbelief, usually in year 1 or 2, where you do the math on what your contributions could have bought instead, a car repair, a vacation, a nicer apartment, and the account balance looks almost insulting by comparison. The second is a strange identity gap, somewhere around year 3 or 4, where you've started thinking of yourself as an investor, you've got opinions on interest rates now, but the account still doesn't match the self-image, and that mismatch is uncomfortable in a way that's hard to name. The third is real fear, the kind that shows up when the market drops 30% in a matter of weeks, like it did in the spring of 2020, and your 6-figure account suddenly looks like a 5-figure account, and every fiber of your instinct is screaming to move to cash before it gets worse. The people who study investor behavior have tracked this for decades, and the finding repeats almost every single year. The average investor earns meaningfully less than the funds they're invested in, not because they picked worse funds, but because they bought high out of excitement and sold low out of fear, over and over, generation after generation. The three seasons aren't a flaw in your character, they're a predictable weather pattern. And once you know a storm is seasonal, you stop assuming it means the climate has permanently changed. If you're finding this useful, this is exactly the kind of thing I dig into every week, so it'd genuinely help me out if you hit subscribe, because it tells me to keep making more of these. Now the 1, the final number, is the one people skip past the fastest, and it's the one I actually think does the most quiet damage when ignored. It's a single annual increase to how much you contribute, not doubling it, not some dramatic lifestyle overhaul, just nudging it upward once a year, roughly in line with a raise or even just inflation. Here's a version of the math that I think lands harder than the usual example. Take someone contributing $400 a month for 30 years at an 8% average return, never increasing it once. They end up somewhere around $590,000. Now take that same person, same return, same starting contribution, but every January they bump the number up by 5%. 400 becomes 420, then 441, and so on. So gradually, you genuinely struggle to notice it in your checking account. By year 15, they're contributing around $800 a month without ever having made one uncomfortable decision. 30 years later, that account isn't at $590,000, it's closer to $930,000. Same market, same luck, same starting point. A difference of roughly $340,000, created entirely by a habit that costs about $20 extra in its very first year. The tragedy isn't that people can't afford to do this, it's that almost nobody sets a reminder for it, because it feels too small to matter, and small things that feel like they don't matter are exactly the things that quietly compound hardest, in both directions. What I keep coming back to with Ethan's story is that the account didn't change its behavior between year 1 and year 9. He changed his. He stopped treating a decade-long process like a daily one. He gave the tree a year to grow instead of 10 minutes. And I think that's really what the 7, the 5, the 3, and the 1 are actually doing when you put them together. They're not a growth hack. They're a set of guardrails that keep you from measuring a slow, patient system with a fast, anxious tool. The market has never needed you to be brilliant. It's needed you to stop checking so often that you talk yourself out of it before it had the chance to work. So here's what I'd actually ask you to do before you close this video. Go find your own account, whatever it is, and instead of looking at this week's number, calculate what it would look like 9 years from now if you simply left it alone and nudged your contribution up once a year. Then write that number down somewhere you'll actually see it. And I want to know in the comments, what season are you in right now? The disbelief, the identity gap, or the fear? Because I think naming it out loud is half the battle of not acting on it.